Sting's career to date is remarkable, to say the least. Since '78, he's amassed 9 albums, 6 with the Police. He's picked up 7 Grammys, including his latest for Best Pop Male Vocal Performance. To add to that, he's appeared in or starred in 11 movies, and his humanitarian efforts with Amnesty International have helped bring the plight of prisoners of conscience to the forefront. According to Sting, he's only just begun.
Over the years, you've said things like you hate rock stars and they're a drain on society. Now that you yourself are one of the most successful ones, do you still feel that way?
I think that I have a habit of making polemic statements that come back on me 5 years later, you know, that I have to sort of justify myself. I change my mind almost daily, and I do this in order to prove that I'm thinking. So I really don't want to be hoisted by old quotes. I like rock and roll. I have to like it. I enjoy what I do. I think it's always good to challenge its autonomy or challenge its power and ask the question, does it really have a significance, or does it really reflect a rebellious adolescent attitude, or does it reflect anything except money? So I think it's good if you're inside it to question it. But that's true of anything.
You have so many images that you play with. The thinking man's rock star, the sex symbol in the movies, the family man. Which one of those is the most comfortable for you?
It suits my purpose that people are confused about what I am, because then it allows me the freedom to be exactly what I am, not what's perceived. I think a lot of people get hung up on their image because it's just one-dimensional. They're the tough guy, so they have to spend the rest of their lives being a tough guy. Or a sex symbol, so they spend the rest of their lives being a sex symbol. And none of those are particularly applied to me. I think all of those may be true at a certain point, but I'd like to try them all out and have the freedom to be as I am, which I hope is fairly as complex as you are or anybody watching.
Did you find it surprising at all that people so easily followed you?
Well, I didn't assume that because I'd been successful in that band that I could carry on as normal. In fact, I started again. I started to play in small places, and I assumed that this was a new beginning. Of course, I carried on some of the momentum from the Police, but it was quite difficult at first. People came out of curiosity. You know, they'd fill a hall, but they were wondering what they were going to hear. This time, we're filling halls, and people know what they're going to hear, so it's a bit of a vindication, if you like.
So in using music as a political tool, it's clear that you think there's a very comfortable marriage to be made of the two.
I think so. I mean, my first function on the stage is to entertain. It's no good standing up there on a soapbox and mouthing off, you know, polemic. I think I'm there to sing and sing well and entertain people. At the same time, I think there's room for a core of your work to be political, about issues. As long as you're not hitting issues head on, I think it's important to have a metaphor. In all of the issues I tackle, I always try and find a metaphor first. It's no good just saying Pinochet is a bad man. There's nothing artistic about that or particularly powerful. And yet the metaphor of the mothers of the disappeared dancing alone is a very powerful metaphor that everyone can understand, whether or not you've been to Chile or not. You know, losing a loved one is something that I relate to, and everyone, again, watching can. So that's my function, really, to make universal things. You know, I think my political awareness didn't just start when I left the Police. I think there's a line that goes way back to when we started, you know, writing songs in a way. And I started writing songs when I was 14, listening to Bob Dylan and the Beatles. You know. So in a sense, the protest song, as it was then, was something that was seminal to me. And all through the 70s and whatever, that was in my mind, you know. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say that everyone is involved in the future of this world, and we shouldn't leave it to the professionals, if you like. Things like nuclear power, nuclear arms race, pollution, South Africa. Things we can all have a say. And I have a forum that I don't need to be a politician to air my views. You know, I have a very substantial forum every night on stage. But I don't preach. You know, it's in the songs. I don't get up and say this is good, this is bad. I'm an entertainer. I hope I'm an entertainer.
On The Dream of the Blue Turtles, you seem to be taking off in a number of different directions. More political lyrics, a jazzier music. Nothing Like the Sun seems to have a more central, unified focus to it. What do you think that focus is?
I think the first album I did outside of the Police was a bit of an accident. In many ways, a bit of a car crash. I'd written these songs, many of them about issues, and it coincided with meeting a group of musicians who had been jazz musicians. And so people got very confused that I was trying to play jazz, that the songs didn't seem to have any connection between them, and they probably didn't. It was basically me just saying, I'm going to try something totally new, and some of it will work and some of it won't. This album, this present album, Nothing Like the Sun, is much more controlled. It's much more, I know what I've got, I know what the band can do. The songs, in a sense, were tailored for the band rather than just thrown at them. So in a sense, it's probably a safer record. Now, the question is, what shall I do next? I'll probably make another record that's thrown together. You know, the old adage is for rock and roll is you know, live fast, die young, and have a beautiful corpse. I'm not going to do any of those things. I think having 4 children gives you a stake in the future, you know, and I want the world to be safe and happy for them. I really do. Otherwise, why have I brought them into the world? And so I really have a duty to try as far as possible to make sure the world is safe and happy. And as much as I can do, I will do.
Our thanks to Karen Morrison and Paul McGrath of the Journal for that interview. Next